talk a little bit about climate change, then I'd like to talk to you a little bit about our college, and then I'd like to tell you a little bit about our journey to becoming green. The first thing that Dan said about climate change is absolutely real. It's a real issue. Humans generate discharge to the environment something in the range of 6.3 to 6.5 gigatons per year of carbon. All I can tell you is gigatons is a very, very large amount. Now, when we talk about the Earth being at the tipping point, our atmosphere at the tipping point for carbon, the reason for that is that nature has the ability to absorb 156 gigatons per year of carbon. And nature generates 153 gigatons per year of carbon. So we're out of whack by about 3 gigatons, 3.5 gigatons. That's the tipping point. This is just a very, very fragile point. And the issue is, if we don't turn that tipping point, temperatures on this globe will increase by anywhere from 3 to 5 degrees C. Order of magnitude, that's roughly 5 to 10 degrees up. What does that mean? It means for the very first time in the UN Brussels report, the UN report, referred to the issue of environmental refugees. Potentially 250 million people that literally will be without homes because either they will be inundated with water, they will not be able to sustain agriculture and where they live, they'll have inadequate water or excess water. So it's a big issue. And that's why we as an institution said we have to provide leadership in this area. We have to demonstrate what is possible. Let's talk a little bit about the institution. 1,600 undergraduates, 600 graduate students. They're passionate about the environment. Anywhere from landscape architecture, bioprocess engineering, environmental science, environmental engineering, environmental studies, environmental biology. Those are all the disciplines. They're passionate. The example of their passion, there was the ambassador from Mozambique that was on our campus 2 years ago. So what is the ambassador from Mozambique? What is he here? He was here for a PhD defense of a country woman, of his, a citizen from Mozambique, defending her PhD. So why is he here for that? I'd like to know. So I met him, I said, Mr. Ambassador, you can't possibly defend all the PhD defenses of all your citizens here in the U.S. I said, I'm not here for that. I'm here recruiting our next Minister of the Environment for Mozambique. As Minister of the Environment for Mozambique. Another little story about a young woman that I received an email from last November. Senator Clinton was in Afghanistan last November. She was taking a pretty good political beating. Did I say Secretary Clinton? Secretary. Well, they gave her one of those easy evenings that they tend to do with a politician when they've been taking a beating. Typically what they do is they bring in 15 young people around the table, they break bread together, and it gave a chance for the secretary to learn about some of the young Afghanis and their aspirations. Goes around the table, comes to one young woman, and they each explain their background, their education, their aspirations, those kinds of things. This young woman said that she just completed her master's at ESF. The secretary said, "My ESF?" She proceeded to go on a discourse to this young woman that literally represented what this young woman's research was all about. And that was creating high-growth biomass that frankly could wind up being a bioenergy crop in Afghanistan to offset the growth of poppies in Afghanistan, to help revegetate that country. Those are the kinds of young people that we educate. And these young people are passionate. These young people can't put up with anything else other than a journey to becoming green. As Dan said, when we had the strategic planning initiative, the students were very, very vocal that if you're going to teach green, you have to be green. You have to be green. You cannot have instruction in the area of environmental science, associated discourse, and engineering without being literally embraced by the images in the environment of your study. That's what this is all about. So, relative to our work on reducing our carbon footprint, as Dan said, it really started with the American College and University President's Climate Commitment. Some place in that group of people, there's a guy there that has gray hair, now white hair, and he's making a commitment for his campus as far as what ESF is going to do. And with that, we started a journey that we refer to as ECN 2015. And that's our journey as an institution to physically become carbon neutral by the year 2015. Now, we were not going to hire a consultant to do this, as many colleges and universities have, because our students had to do it for us as part of their educational mission, because they were going to have to do it for the future clients. They were going to have to do it for themselves. So what I described to you is all student initiative. Students basically identified what our carbon footprint is. And they did that. 2 separate classes did it. They came up with about 100 million tons of carbon equivalent together. They were that close. But roughly it's about 12,000 million tons of CO2 equivalent. And the students have broken all of that up in terms of all of the energy consumption associated with us as an institution. And repeating the issue of buildings, 40% of it is buildings. That's as a nation. For us, buildings were probably about 60% of the nation. Equally, they defined all the energy inputs, all the ways that we as a campus were consuming energy. And this is the baseline. This is from which we then had to move forward to come up with our plan for carbon mitigation. And what we decided is all of the campuses were thinking about the year 2040, 2030, 2035. No, that wasn't going to cut it on our campus. It had to be more bold. And so we came up with a plan to achieve carbon neutrality by the year 2050. One of the centerpieces is obviously our buildings, with more than 60% of our energy being involved in buildings. We had to start with our first new building on the campus being a LEED certified building, a LEED platinum building. That wasn't good enough. LEED platinum isn't good enough. A LEED platinum plus building doesn't cut it. Just doesn't cut it. This building had to produce more energy than the building consumed. Produce more energy than the building consumed. Architectura and the Architectura team was selected for the design. And the design had to reflect our history, because our history was originally the College of Forestry. So it had to reflect that history. It had to have literally stored carbon in the form of wood, be absolutely a critical element of the building. But it had to have a bioclimatic shell that was a shell of the 21st century, or possibly even the shell of the 20th century. That's what this building had to do. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I think the Architectura team did an extraordinary job meeting that sense that we as a campus were trying to achieve. Just a few other exhibits. This is going into the main approach to the building. And you can just see wood is just absolutely replete in that building. And why is it essential for wood to be replete in that building? Because wood represents stored carbon. Carbon is sequestered out of the atmosphere and literally produces wood. So we're using wood in that building as a representation of stored carbon, as the most renewable structural resource that we actually can use. As you can see here, another view of the building, but this is actually from the opposite to the entry. And with this, you can see some rain gardens and so on here on the right. With the building, you also can see a green roof located up here. But this wasn't going to be a green roof with sedum, with low, typical vegetation for a green roof. This was going to be a complex green roof. And it was going to represent the indigenous species, literally north of the city of Syracuse, because it needed to be a teaching element. And the testing of those species that we intend to vegetate on this roof is going on now. Students are doing the testing. This again represents the interior. And you can see with this an image again representing the history of the college, literally in the form of a design element representing a tree. Important to us is this building gave us a new dimension. We have literally no conference facilities on the campus. So it gave us a capacity to seat as many as 500 people in a conference facility. Have the ability here to have a cafe and have space that our students can literally socialize in, can literally meet as teams to discuss their work. A bookstore. We're a very small campus, and this gave us a whole bunch of things that we never had before. Equally on the second story, it gave us offices. This is our gateway building. And so our admissions are here, our educational outreach is here, our demonstration of our technology, our research and development is literally showcased in this building. And this represents the green roof. Again, it will be complete with walkways. You'll have a wide range of vegetation that will be used in construction. And it's going to be a gorgeous space, a natural space represented by a roof. One of the most important things in this building, and this is the lower level, is what is here. It's referred to as combined heat power plant. Because not only is that plant going to drive the building, it's going to drive the campus. This is the heart of what I said is LEED Platinum node, LEED Platinum Plus node. It had to produce more energy than it would consume. So what does that mean? It means a very unique and integrated combined heat and power system. Our students on our campus take waste vegetable oil from Syracuse University dining rolls and converts that into biodiesel. So part of the combined heat and power system on this campus had to use that biodiesel in the form of a small biodiesel fuel micro turbine to help produce both heat and to produce power. In addition, being a College of Forestry, knowing that biomass is the renewable source of carbon on the face of this planet. There is no other renewable source of carbon like biomass on this planet. If you think of the petroleum products, you think of coal. They're basically from our forests from 200, 300 million years ago. And so we're driving, using wood pellets to drive the thermal mass for our campus. The wood pellets driving an 8,000-pound boiler, steam from the boiler driving a 100 kW steam turbine. So again, we're producing the thermal needs of the campus. We're also producing the power needs of the campus. And it's coming from not only wood pellets, but in the future, wood pellets grown on our property, wood pellets that would be made by our students, literally to provide the power to fuel not only this building, but 65% of our campus. We have two 6 kW gas micro turbines that when we don't need quite the thermal rich energy on this building, for example, in the winter, they can help us on the shoulders of that season. 100 kW of PV to be used on this campus, and used in the building in the balance of the campus, and also some passive solar. So this is the heart of what drives the building. And in the design of the building, this combined heat and power system is going to be very, very visible, because it has to tell the story of what can be done to produce a very innovative way to provide the heating requirements and the electrical requirements. As I mentioned, the thermal output from this system will provide not only the building needs, but 65% of our campus heating needs. The electrical output from this building will provide 20% of our campus electrical needs, and it will result in a 22% reduction in our carbon footprint. 22%, not just of the building, of the campus. Now, if we look at the economics of the combined heat and power system, if you're an agnostic relative to global warming, and it would baffle me how you would be, but assuming that you are, this makes sense from an economic standpoint. We expect that an investment of roughly $3.2 million for that combined heat and power system will save us $336,000 a year in energy bills. We expect that we'll get approximately $1.5 million in grants and incentives, and the 15-year present net value is $1.5 million. And that's based on what energy is today, and not what energy is going to be tomorrow. It doesn't represent what energy was when a barrel of crude is at $143 a barrel. It represents what energy is with a barrel of crude at about $70 a barrel. This is student output. So the students have gone through our energy inputs, gone through our conversion technologies, gone through both our thermal output, our electrical output, and we have identified basically all of the buildings and all of the loads of the buildings that this combined heat and power system is going to serve. We have another building that will be constructed on our campus. The building is an academic research building. And what was supposed to happen when I did the second clip was we were supposed to get a three-dimensional flyby on the exterior of that building. Now this building, we said that we need to look at some other technology. So we're going to look very heavily at passive solar. And there is, if you look very closely, there's a secondary skin on this building that is to the south. And that secondary skin literally will wind up being a way that we will condition and heat air prior to the air actually going into that building. We intend the building to have green roofs. We intend to have both PV on that building. And we expect to also have other passive solar incorporated into the design. Why do we want to have different systems? We want to have different systems because these buildings have to be a teaching laboratory. Students have to see different ways that renewable energy can be applied, but with the same common objective. The next piece of us, being the College of Forestry, having knowledge of what ecological engineering can do to make natural systems do a better job of sequestering carbon. We have approximately 25,000 acres that we manage for research, for demonstration, those kinds of purposes. We have identified approximately 10,000 acres that we're going to manage in a way to keep it in the log phase of growth. So we get an additional sequestration of carbon in the amount of about 10,000 tons per year of carbon equivalent. And that is going to be part of a demonstration of research that we have on the campus. But all our modeling totally suggests that we will be able to do that. Now, when a forest is in a high growth rate, it absorbs an awful lot of CO2. When it matures, it gets to the steady state. And then as the forest begins to decline, it emits more CO2 and methane than it actually sequesters. So literally you can manage a forest and optimize the amount of CO2 that is sequestered. That's part of our plan. This represents all of our projects on our campus and represents how we expect that we're going to achieve a reduction in CO2. And we expect to achieve a little over 13.5 thousand tons of CO2 equivalent through all of conservation on the campus, alternative energy projects on green buildings, all of it, the sequestration of carbon through all of our activities, which well exceeds our mission, which is 12,000. Again, this is work and students. This shows the fuel mix trend as we extend what comes. And in the green, the increase in renewables and the reduction of fossil fuels as we bring new systems online. And this shows what is typically a wedge chart that shows literally the reduction in our CO2 emissions with the implementation of each of those systems, eventually getting to the year 2015, where literally we are sequestering more carbon than what we in the campuses are actually producing. Again, I mentioned if you're agnostic relative to climate change, the issue is very simple. A 7-year payback for an investment of about $15 million. That's the dollars and cents. But our students don't understand dollars and cents. They understand the passion. They understand the social need. And that's fundamentally why we're doing this. And down the road, I'll finish up fairly quickly. Down the road, we're integrating some of our research into producing literally the biomass that will be used to help fuel the combined heat and power system in that building. Literally, we're designing and developing through genetics the development of biomass that can grow literally from a twig that is about 6 inches tall. The height of these shrub willows shown here, which are almost 30 feet in 3 years. And we developed a harvester literally that can harvest that. So this is the concept of agroforestry. And literally harvesting our own biomass, converting that biomass to pellets, using students to do that, is what ultimately will drive the largest single impact on reducing our carbon footprint. These are other projects. Tremendous use of biofuels on campus. All of our diesel vehicles are B20, and we're moving now to make those vehicles B80 vehicles. We have a student co-op, literally, that involves both students from Syracuse University, because we're co-located next to Syracuse University, as well as our own students, to literally run that system. We have a 250 kW molten carbonate fuel cell. We talked a little bit about fuel cells. This is a big fuel cell. And it currently is driven by natural gas, but we will eventually have a gasifier that will take biomass, produce a syngas. Syngas is very heavily weighted in hydrogen, and that hydrogen will literally drive that fuel cell. And we have multiple PV projects. It's 16 kW, 23 kW, but we're going to be adding 3 25 kW systems, as well as the 100 kW system that will be on the building designed by Architect. We have a horizontal access wind turbine, and we're looking at currently working with a firm, Innovation Technologies, to help them demonstrate a vertical access wind. And we're putting wood chip boilers in some of our remote facilities. I won't go through all the rest of the slides because you need to get into some dialogue, but I just want to tell you the story about this young man. This young man, his name is Greg Boyd. He was a transfer student from Hudson Valley Community College in the Capital District area. He came into my office and said, he was describing what he and his mother did every Saturday morning. They both had diesel-powered vehicles. They were Mercedes. I can assure you they were old Mercedes, roughly 20-year-old Mercedes. He described how he and his mother went out to mom-and-pop restaurants and collected the waste vegetable oil, and literally in their garage, using cardboards, literally did the transesterification. This is the chemist coming out. The transesterification reaction to turn literally the fatty acids into the esters, so that literally they could use that waste vegetable oil to power their vehicles. They did that every Saturday morning. I turned to Greg and I said, if you can do that in your garage, You're going to do it with a much more sophisticated system on this campus. Not only did he do it, he became the oracle. He presented in technical conferences in Arizona. He presented in Vienna, Austria. Literally, he went around the globe as an oracle, literally, of what people can do to change their own individual carbon footprint. And the oracle of what personal commitment means in order to reduce our impact on our planet. So I want to thank you very much. I particularly want to thank my two colleagues from Architecture for the incredible design work that they've done on our first building that is not platinum plus, beyond platinum, a building literally that produces more power than it consumes. So thank you all very much.